There's something I always especially love, which is a good horror experience. Not just big budget stuff, but sometimes just the quirky indie titles that are going to make your skin crawl or your jaw drop when a particularly gooey monster pops out. And while doing research of some great horror games in 2022, I randomly stumbled upon the Chant. This is a game by a tiny studio called Brass Token. It's a studio of just a couple friends that decided to come together and make something that's inspired by cheesy cult terror films from the 1970s. It's psychedelic, it's very, very different, and this video is sponsored by them. So if you're curious about this game, I'm going to talk about why it's so cool and why I've had so much fun playing it. If you want to see it for yourself, there is a link at the top of the description box so you can check out the Chant. Let's dig into this very fun, quirky adventure. So when this game starts off, you don't know exactly what you're getting into. It's this person named Jess, and she's currently going to like a relaxation retreat, but she gets to this private island, which is incredibly beautiful, and everybody definitely seems like they're in a very funky cult. Everybody's wearing white robes and barefoot walking around in the woods, and then they say, hey, you know what, let's eat some delicious dinner and then perform the ritual. So as soon as they start doing the chant, oh my gosh, it opens up a portal to an alternate dimension and basically all hell breaks loose. This is a survival horror game, but it's one with an interesting mechanic to it that definitely sets it apart. Instead of just having like health and ammo, instead you have 3 separate energy meters in this. You have mind, you have body, and you have spirit. Now, the way this works is that during the course of exploring these different chapters of the game and trying to survive this very, very corrupted, tormented psychedelic adventure, you have to be concerned with not just your physical health, but your mental health. The creatures we face are very Lovecraftian in nature, meaning that not only are they trying to destroy and probably eat your delicious, beautiful face, but they want to make you go insane simultaneously, which means that while you're actually creeping around in these environments, you have to worry about mind attacks. You can physically dodge the fists of these monsters as they jump at you, or if they're spitting acid or whatever like that. But what's more difficult is the fact that they can launch attacks against your brain. So you have to try and press the action button to keep your sanity intact. Whenever you're hit, it does hurt your health, but whenever you get a mind attack, it drives you a little bit crazy. If you happen to have your mind energy drained all the way down, you have a panic attack and must forcibly retreat. This creates a really cool mechanic during the chant where as you're going through these different areas, you're constantly trying to craft more weapons. As you're scrounging and trying to find the next puzzle piece or another key or something like that, you're also trying to track down different health bits and also stuff like sage or even sticks to be able to cobble together another piece of incense or a flaming branch to try and be able to fight off the very weird set of monsters we're going to have to face. Now, I have to say, you already are probably noticing this in the gameplay itself, but the monsters are really creepy looking. Like everybody, especially the weird humanoid guys with like animal skulls on their head, they're very unnerving in a way that I absolutely enjoy. It really does remind me of those best old school campy horror films from the 70s and the 80s where a bunch of people are trapped in an impossibly chaotic situation and they have to try and be the last man standing. But I also think this conveys over to the way the game is written, the interesting notes, and well, just the very, very silly acting at times. Everybody in this is so dead set on trying to stop the chant or to help the chant. Whenever these monsters start showing up, they start talking about prismatic events. Some of these weird hippie scientists will start breaking down the different ways that you can channel your prismatic energy. And I kind of enjoy the fact that this game is just so bonkers, it completely invested me in it, which brings me to the notes. You guys know this, but I really enjoy trying to be a completionist whenever I'm playing any sort of stuff, but specifically like horror games, I enjoy trying to track down every little scrap of paper and additional content to see what's really going on. Sometimes the unspoken stories are part of some of the best written moments inside of horror games. There's a lot of optional side stuff in this. While you do have specific objectives like trying to cleanse the mind or save your friend Kim from being, well, consumed from the inside out, you can stop and read different pieces of literature that explain how people ended up on this island. You can also find a bunch of notes from a previous group of individuals that existed on this island in the 70s that have all just vanished. So a lot of times you'll find their research papers, their notes, their, well, diagrams of how screwed they probably ended up. I like the fact that there's all this world building, but it does bring me to the final piece of energy. So we already talked about mind, we did talk about body, but that brings me to spirit. You get these special sort of magical abilities that let you slow enemies down, stun people, blast people back. This creates an interesting added mechanic to the combat, where if there's multiple enemies trying to surround you and stuff, it's cool that you can fight back, try and use their specific weakness like a flaming branch, but you can also sometimes just slow down time by consuming your spirit energy. I like the fact that with the dodging, with things like throwing salt to temporarily stun, there's a lot of different resources that make it so that in fights, you're constantly feeling like you're both screwed and in control simultaneously. The Chant is a very unique style of scares. It constantly walks that very thin line between giving you a lot of mechanics to fight back and also telling you that you're probably screwed no matter what. I really enjoyed this game. I actually played it on Halloween in the dark with the lights off, and it was such a pleasurable experience. If you're really kind of craving at different styles of scare this season, just something to get your blood pumping, I highly recommend the Chant. I played it on PlayStation 5. It's on all sorts of consoles. It's super, super goofy. It's super, super fun. Be sure to check it out using my link in the description box. And thanks again to Brass Token for sponsoring this video. You guys rock. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, give it a big old thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. And please keep dreaming. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, you know, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.